Hello everybody, welcome to another Story Lab video. Today we're going to be doing one a little bit different. This one is called Story Grammar. Now in the classroom, we use a puppet called Forgetful Fred to help us remember what happens in a book. However, Forgetful Fred, he's in our classroom still, so today I'm going to introduce you to somebody new. This is Forgetful Ed. Forgetful Ed is an elephant. And you know what? He's just as Forgetful Fred. So your job when I read this story today is to help Forgetful Ed remember what happens in this book. Okay? So he's going to listen along with you. I'm going to put him right here by the camera, right? And your job is to think of him as I'm reading and think, okay, I need to remember the order of things that happen. So I'm going to need your help at the very end, okay? So, first things first, here's our book. It's called Clifford the Small Red Puppy. And it's by somebody named Norman Birdwell. He's the author and illustrator, means he wrote the words and he drew the pictures in the book. So here we go. And remember, Forgetful Ed is listening, so you need to help him at the end to remember what happens. So here we go. Hi, I'm Emily Elizabeth, and this is Clifford, my big red dog. Yesterday, my friend Martha said, I got my dog from the fancy pet store. Where did you get yours? So I told her how I got Clifford. When I was little, I lived in the city. I didn't have a dog. Now, the city is a place where there's lots of tall buildings and they're very close together. One day, the man down the hall called us. His dog had puppies. He wanted to give me one. One puppy was smaller than the rest. The man said, Don't take him. He's the runt. He will always be small and sick. But I loved that little puppy. He needed me. I named my puppy Clifford. He was so tiny that I had to feed him with the doll's baby bottle. We got the smallest collar we could find for Clifford. But it was too big. When he began to eat dog food, we had to watch him all the time. He was so little that he was always getting lost, even in a small apartment. Daddy said Clifford was just too small. He didn't think he could live through the winter. I was really sad. That night, I told Clifford I wished he would grow to be a big, healthy dog. I told him I loved him. Next morning, he looked bigger to me. He seemed to have an easier time eating his dog food, and his collar wasn't so loose. In fact, by the time Daddy got home, the collar was too small. By bedtime, Clifford's tiny basket seemed a little too small for him. So I let him sleep on my pillow again. That was a mistake. Next morning, Mommy thought Clifford looked different. Daddy said, I think he's growing. I decided to take Clifford for a walk. At the corner, I saw a big dog coming. I knew I should pick Clifford up, so the big dog couldn't hurt him. But I shouldn't have worried. Clifford was really growing. We ran home to show Mommy how big he was. Had our apartment grown smaller? Daddy couldn't believe it. We put Clifford in the garden to sleep that night. In the morning, the lady upstairs called us. It was about Clifford. Oh my goodness, that's so silly. In fact, all of the neighbors were starting to notice him. The landlord called the police. They came to see Clifford. They said Clifford would have to go. But how? He couldn't go through the door. There is just one way to get him out of our garden. We sent him with my uncle who lived in the country. Now in the country, that's different than in the city because there's not as many tall buildings. See, there's lots of open space, so there's space for Clifford. One day we got a surprise. My uncle wanted Daddy to come work with him in the country, so we moved right away. Clifford was waiting for me, so I said, "Clifford, stop growing. You are just right." "So," I said to Martha, "that's how I got my dog. Tell me again how you got your dog." Martha said, "Forget it." So, I hope you enjoyed that story about Clifford and how he grew to be a small puppy to a really big puppy. Now, if you remember, your job was to watch Forgetful Ed and think what happened in the beginning, the middle, and the end, right? So I'm going to help you out a little bit. I drew pictures of some of the things that happened. So your job's going to be to think about that and put them in the right order. So I drew a picture of Amelia Elizabeth and Clifford, and they're in the country. I drew a country house. I drew a picture of Amelia Elizabeth and Big Clifford in the city. I drew a picture of Amelia Elizabeth, Clifford, and the police telling them that Clifford had to go. And I drew a picture of Amelia Elizabeth with Clifford as a little tiny puppy. So I'm going to put those all out on the table. And your job is to help me put them into the right order. What happened first, second, third, and fourth, right? So, Forgetful Ed, what do you think happened first? Oh, Ed says he thinks that first the police told Clifford that they had to go to the country. Do you think that's what happened first? You can tell your families right now if you think that is. I don't think it's right. I think the very first thing is that Emily Elizabeth got Clifford as a puppy. You see how tall the puppy is? So small the puppy is, right? So that's what had to have happened first. I'm going to put that first, right? Now, second. Let's ask Forgetful Ed if he thinks he knows what second is. What happened second, Forgetful Ed? Forgetful Ed says that the small little puppy grew to be a big dog next. I think he's right for this one, so I'm going to put that as second. So first, they got the puppy when he was small. Next, the puppy grew bigger. So we're down to two more things that could have happened. Do you think that next they went to live in the country? Or next the police say that Clifford had to go? Let's ask Forgetful Ed. Hey, Forgetful Ed, what do you think happened next? Forgetful Ed says he thinks that next they went to live in the country. Is that right? I don't think that's right either. Remember, the only reason they had to leave the city is because the police told him they had to leave, right? So I'm going to put that down, right? So here we have it. First, Emily Elizabeth had to go. Emily Elizabeth had the puppy, right? Then the puppy grew to be bigger. After that, the police told the doggy that they had to leave the city. And then they went to live in the country. So that's the some of the four most important things that happened in our book, Clifford and the Small Puppy. Now it's your job to remember what Forgetful Ed and I taught you today and tell your family members about it, right? So it's your job to say what happened first, in the middle, and at the end. So tell somebody in your family and ask that person to send it to me so that I know that you remember what happens, right? So I hope you enjoyed our video and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for watching.